Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Future Proof, the podcast where we decode how founders, leaders, and execs are working smarter by using systems, automation, and AI. If you're looking to future-proof your business, you're definitely in the right place. Before we dive in, if you're a leader, founder, C-suite exec, you're feeling the pressure to grow faster with leaner teams, we're constantly developing new cutting-edge AI micro solutions for our business, for everybody's business. Last week, we helped a client save over 40 just from one of their business processes alone. So if you want to see where AI could do a quick win, get some hours back, or increase your lead flow, we do a no-pitch 30-minute collaboration call. There's links in all of our show notes for that. But let's jump into today's episode. I'm joined today by Jaye Connolly from RippleNami. Jaye, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Exciting.
Yeah, excellent. So Jaye, talk to us about first off, let's talk about, we always do the founder's journey. So talk to us about your background leading up to.
So I'm not the founder. I'm just the chairman and CEO.
Wow.
But I just like to be clear about that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Because my background, you'll know why. So my background was accounting and finance back in the oil and gas days in Texas. And when I moved out to California, I went into healthcare and eventually became head of for a bunch of big healthcare roll-ups, like LabCorp, big ones you've heard of. And that led to then being a CEO of an AI healthcare company back in the early 2000s. Yeah, early 2000s. And the company had been 14 years already old by the time I joined. Yeah. And I was the fifth and final CEO. So I'm a turnaround CEO. That's why I say I'm not a founder, because usually those are out the door. Yeah. So that was really successful. We ended up cleaning it up. It takes about 5 years to get a company right way. And it's the core of United Health Systems. We sold it to United Health back in the early 2000s. Yeah. So AI's been around, as you guys know, like 67 years, I think. And then I did a couple more cleanup companies. And then someone called and said, hey, you've been to Africa. Do you want to work in Africa? And I'm like, what? So I came on as a board advisor for this company called RippleNami. And that is my journey, 30, 40 years later on how I'm now working in Africa with presidents over the past 10 years.
Unbelievable. All right. So tell everybody that is not familiar, tell them about RippleNami and tell them about the mission and the vision.
Yes. So RippleNami stands for a ripple of data turns to a tsunami of information. And with the propensity of cell phones throughout the world, there's a lot of data collected, right? But we're not using it. We use like 1% to 2% of data that's being generated on a daily basis. So the concept was, hey, there's a lot of data. Could we pull this data together and bring it back to meaningful information? And where could we do this? So they originally started out here in the States in emergency management because a lot of data, it's a very command and control system, but what if it could be real time and everyone could share when a fire jumped a road or a flood happened and everybody could see on a point of a map immediately. There was no money in emergency management, so we then pivoted. I was a board advisor at the time, and they said, let's try Africa. They got a lot of data. They don't have legacy ICT systems, and they're willing to, they deploy like the latest and greatest. And can we use AI, blockchain, data visualization? So what we do in Africa is we consolidate big data sets. Think of e-government through all their ministries, departments, administrations to solve a problem. And a couple of the problems we solve for now are taxation, compliance. Property-related taxation is the most underdeclared tax. So we pull 12 different ministries of data together about a little bit about something about property. And if you think about it visually, it looks like Zillow for taxation.
Okay.
And it's a mystery on who owns what, where, when, and if they're paying property tax or is it being rented, blah, blah, blah. So we pull in water, sewage, phone numbers, national ID, land, tax records, you name it. We pull all that together and feed it back so that the country can start to grow their middle income and become sovereign nations and get off aid and debt. So we really focused in taxation. We do livestock traceability. It's just big data sets, right? Pulling together this ecosystem. We do food security safety. We do agriculture. We do climate. It doesn't matter to us, but that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years in Africa. We work at the president level because it's got to come from the top down and compel the ministers to work with this. So it's the start of e-government. And what I love about Africa, they're like, get it, do it. let's do it. I'm like, can we use AI? Can we do this? They're like, yes. So they are well ahead of us. So they're willing to put the latest and greatest technology. They don't have the legacy ICT systems, and they need to solve problems pretty quickly. So it's been a
Amazing.
great relationship.
And so are you working across the whole continent? Or are there specific countries that you are more industrialized than the others, or is it all of them?
Yeah, so we work in sub-Saharan Africa, which is the middle part of Africa, from Kenya over to Gambia. And we do not work in North Africa, not yet. We may. And we do not work in South Africa.
And
Yes.
I would imagine that that's a whole economic system just in the middle of Africa in and of itself.
It is. There's like almost 600 million people just in sub-Saharan Africa. And so Africa has 54 countries and 1.5 billion people. And by 2030, Africa will have the largest workforce because their workforce right now, I mean, their population is under 50%. 50% is under 16 years old.
Wow.
So we look at Africa, by 2030, they will have the largest workforce and the biggest marketplace. So we saw this a long time ago. Not a lot of Americans there. We're the only ones we know that do this. We figured it out. We struggled a little bit in the beginning, but we figured out a system that works. And it's great because we're Americans. We don't take a bribe. We don't give a bribe. So keep it clean. And there's some countries we can't work in because that's not their culture or nature, nor do they want to fix a problem. So there's some we work in and some we don't. So if you go across sub-Saharan Africa, we work a majority of them. There's some
incredible. Yeah, but that's incredible. So one, I love your the name and what it stands for, because I think that the whole future, I don't care where you are across the globe, a little data creates a tsunami of intelligence. And to me, like what you guys are, what you stand for, like it spans everything. So tell me about how, like where you see this going and how basically AI is impacting, right, everything that you do.
Yeah, so when we started, we weren't using AI, and what we were doing is pulling all the data sets together. And we had a real hard time because they don't do property valuations. There's not Class A, Class B, Class C. There's nothing organized like that.
Right.
And so we were really struggling to either go to a country that had done property valuations, or we had to do it ourselves in not a good way. So with AI now, we can figure that all out. We actually, interesting enough, Google Street, we take that for granted, right? Put your little man on the street and walk around and see everything. Only 14 out of the 54 countries within Africa have Google Street.
Okay.
So we actually put that in, and then we do building analysis using AI, and then we do building property valuations and housing property, because we do both residential and commercial. We can use that all using AI. It really empowered us to do things quicker, faster, more accurate.
And that last part's really important, more accurate, right? Yeah.
More accurate, right. Yeah, because like it has to be defensible when you go to court, or if someone says challenges it, they're like, no one ever lived in this house. There's no rental income. And then we pull up, well, here's your water, here's your storage, here's your electricity usage for the past 7 years. It's never gone down. So
someone's living there, right?
Somebody's living there. So we think you're collecting rent. And oh, by the way, here's much rent we think you're collecting. And we had some really good unintended consequences when we turned on the system. Is we found people owning 5 or more properties that didn't even have a tax ID number. So they were paying taxes on nothing else. Right. So they were like, whoa, what? This is awesome. Because it wasn't just property related taxes. It was every other tax. Because if you have 5 or more properties, you're pretty well off.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Yeah. So so do you go over there?
I do a lot. Yeah, I'm getting ready to head out next. So I'm usually there about 7 weeks, every 6 to 7 weeks.
Okay.
Because it's not easy to go between country and country. And someone asked me this in one podcast. They're like, if you had a magic wand, what would you do? I'm like, create Southwest Airlines for Africa to get from one country next to the other one. It may take me 12 hours in 3 different countries.
Really?
So there's no such thing as a direct flight. It's very hard so to travel.
Are you in the car a lot then when you're over there?
No, plane. Like you're usually in airports a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
You'll have your meeting, and the airlines usually like to go from, where was I going? I was going from Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, to Gambia, and I had to go through Senegal. And all the flights were like 1, 2 in the morning, and you're just exhausted. And then you have a 5-hour layover, whatever. And I'm like, can we not have normal flights and no layovers? That would be amazing. Because it's literally like a flight from LA to Dallas. It's a 2-hour flight direct, but it took me 12 hours. So
Yeah,
those are the
that has
kind
to
of
be.
things. Hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's, we're in airports a lot.
Yeah.
And there's some nice airports now, so I don't mind it.
Well, that's good. And so the culture, right?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
sound like, or you're saying that they're embracing change, right? And inherently that has not always been true of Africa, but it sounds like this is a really exciting time to be helping them.
No, I disagree. They've always had change. That's a misnomer that we Americans and Europeans think.
I'm
And I'll
glad you're
give you an
saying this.
example.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. And I just posted this on LinkedIn. So everyone talks about cryptocurrency. And they
Hmm.
always ask me, like, oh, Africa benefit from cryptocurrency. And I'm like, they have had it for 11 or 12 years, 14 years, I think. And because they couldn't get banks, because they didn't have national IDs, they couldn't get a bank account, they use mobile minutes. So say $1 equals one mobile minute. And you can go anywhere, mainly in East Africa. There's billions of people that use this. Like say you and I, you go to a bar and you forget your wallet and you're like, hey, Jay, I forgot my wallet.
Yeah.
I can't Venmo the restaurant. I
Yeah.
can't do anything. But in Africa, every register has a till number, and I can just send mobile minutes to that till number and pay your tab. So
Wow.
they've had that 7 years longer than we've had Apple Pay or
Yeah.
Google Pay.
That's
So
amazing.
they're very innovative because they don't have the legacy systems in any format. So to me, they're more advanced than we are. We don't have a tax system now that merges local and federal taxes.
Right.
They're very separate. They do because we
Yeah.
built it for them.
That's fantastic. I love
Yeah,
it.
so that's what's cool about, and they love technology and they want to learn. So when we go there, we build capacity within that country. We only hire within that country. We train everybody up, and they're so educated. We have the smartest guys, the best developers are unbelievable. They're just, and we just love to see them flourish.
That's fantastic. So you're not only are
Yeah.
you making an impact, but you're basically training a future workforce that is
Hmm.
going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, and they are unbelievable. Did you know that Kenyans are the ones that programmed ChatGPT? In the
No.
dark web? Yes, they did. And they got paid like $2 a day. They were the ones that programmed on the dark web on catching bad things on ChatGPT. Yeah,
Wow.
we don't hear about that. So
No.
very smart, very educated, but it's just a lot of misnomers out
Yeah.
there.
So how do they turn that around? Because again, I think maybe like you said, we're getting misinformation here.
Hmm.
Do they have a plan to, kind of publicize because if they're doing great things, like everybody should know.
Well, they do talk about it. They
Yeah.
do talk about it, but the mainstream media isn't going to
Yeah.
talk about it. So I don't think they care.
Yeah.
Really? I mean,
Right.
there's
They're just doing
54
their thing.
countries. It's like they're doing like what governors say we're doing a great thing here.
Yeah.
It's they're doing their thing and they're just going to keep on doing it. And people like me, we can appreciate it and see it.
Hmm.
And those that say, "Oh, it's so corrupt, it's so hard to do business." I'm like, "Well, that's your experience. Or
Yeah.
maybe not your experience, that's just what your thought is, but here's my experience."
Yeah. And so for RippleNami, because like I said, what your mission, your values are, it plays to so much. Will you expand outside of Africa, or do you just have enough business there to where you're just
Oh,
like, yeah,
interesting enough. So we have been asked by a couple different parties to go to Asia, 5 countries in Asia. And I'm like, that's scary. People are like, you're scared of Asia? I'm like, yeah, I just don't know the culture. Like I know Africa so well now. And then also in the EU. Interesting. We just had that call today. So we will explore each. It doesn't matter. Again, data, we don't care. Our back
mhm,
of our system, we pull data in, whatever the data set is, whether it's food or livestock or
mhm,
a tree or whatever. And then the back end stays the same. We analyze the data, we match the data, we visualize the data, we spit out what's the problem, and here's the solution. So our backend never changes. So to us, languages, we're going to go into a non-English speaking country, which will be interesting. But again, it's data.
right, right.
Doesn't matter.
Now, if you go into the EU, does GDPR come into play? I would imagine it
We
does.
already do. We already do GDPR because one of our first customers was the Minister of Defense in the UK
Okay.
for tracking veterans. They had the problem we were solving for is like, we don't know how many veterans we have. We have 2,000 charities. We don't know what they use. Can you put together what's called the map of need? And we did. And we could see, people up in Newcastle were looking for long-term care, and all the
Mm,
long-term care was being funded down in the South in Portsmouth. So we did that. So as a result of that customer, we became GDPR
got it.
certified.
Got
Yeah.
it. Because I would
And we
imagine
do an
every.
on-prem Yeah, and I'll tell you, we do on and off-prem data. So it depends on the country. If they have a data center, which most don't, but if they have a data center, their own country data resides there.
Hmm.
And then on off-prem would be the code and any analytics. But the data never leaves the country's data center if they have a data center. If it doesn't, we use a secure
Okay.
data center elsewhere. There's
Yeah.
not a
If
lot
you're
of
in the
data
data
center.
business, you know how to
Mhm.
protect it
Yeah,
and in-house
absolutely.
it. So
Yeah.
yeah, one of my other companies is a data company, and I
So,
totally get everything you're talking about. So I know the
right,
challenges very inherently.
right.
So tell me about, as you see this going forward, what's your outlook for the next 12 to 18 months? I know we can't look out, like things change too fast to look further than that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to continue to expand out our taxation. And then the climate system, I just did a TED talk on the fraud going on in the climate side. And if you look at Africa, they have Earth's second lung, known as the Congo Basin. And they have the majority of the natural resources everybody needs to do their carbon offsets, called carbon credits. And they've been taken advantage of. So we're actually working with presidents there to say, why don't we try to nationalize your natural resources, and then you can monetize it and make sure that the money goes to the right places. Because right now the money stays in the global north, even though it's the global south assets that they're using. Well, they can
Wow.
still protect their environment, and they're not polluters. There's not, it's coming down. And whether you believe in climate change or not, I see both sides of that coin. You do see weather changing, affecting the global south much more than here.
Yeah.
And it could be the earth just moving, shifting. I've heard it all.
Yeah.
Who cares? Africa has the natural resources. Let's protect it, and let's not
Yeah.
exploit it. And they're being exploited right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can imagine. Um,
Hmm.
and how do you see AI automation impacting what you guys do and the landscape?
Yeah. So what we've done is created large language models for in each country, which is pretty cool.
That's
So
really cool.
because we're pulling together, 12 out of the 20 or so ministers' data,
Hmm.
we put together large language models for them so they can query and what they need. And it's the start of e-government. And I think Estonia, there's not a lot of countries out there that have e-government, meaning that all the data resides in one place and then
Hmm.
permissioned out based upon your needs. And it makes everything, passports, DMV, all that stuff easier. And that is what they're going to. And we're helping that because we've started it, because property resides in so many different ministries. So we pull the data in, and now we're creating large language models for them to query. And maybe, God knows. In fact, today they were like, one of the problems we have is we can't determine who owns what business. And I said, we do, because we pull in the business license, because we want to see the company and all the directors. And then we can
Right.
do relationship databases to see, oh, this person is a director and owns these 10 properties, and now he has his business on it. They play the shell game very well. So
Yeah.
we've caught on to that. So what we're already doing will solve a problem what this one person was trying to solve for.
Our own government might be calling you guys because yeah, we have
Yep.
all kinds of
It's
issues
totally,
ourselves.
yeah, it's total traceability and transparency. So what we're doing is exactly what our government's doing, is exactly what we've been doing there for 10 years.
I love
So
that. Yeah,
yeah.
more transparency. It's great.
Yeah. And if you're afraid of that, well, then you're hiding something. And you know
Yeah,
what? We don't have anything to do with it. That's okay. You
yeah,
you keep doing your thing. Good
right.
luck. Best of
Yeah,
luck. We wish you luck.
yeah. Until someone shines a light in that corner, right?
Yeah. Or the money runs out.
Right.
With the US aid stopping,
Mhm.
it's been very interesting, because now we have more and more countries coming to us and said, hey, we'd like to expand our middle income and become sovereign nations. Can you help us out? We need to grow our revenue. I was like, yes, we can.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's
Because
great.
there was that was a waste, a big waste bucket, especially in Africa.
Yeah,
It was terrible waste, unbelievable. I mean, we were always just like disgusted that our tax
dumping
dollars
money.
were being wasted.
Yeah,
It was terrible. Letting these people live amazing, the aid workers living an amazing life, while the people that need the money didn't get it.
yeah, yeah. I can only imagine. So yeah, I'm glad you're shining a light on that, and I'm glad that you're helping them actually do the right thing, which is at the
Hmm.
end of the day, that's what we always want. So
Sure.
yeah, So tell me a little bit about just basically, Jay, what you think the impact of e-government as it expands across the world. Because to me, like everybody needs this. And this is kind of where you can start to see how globally, right, technology is
Hmm.
making things better and to your
Hmm.
point, doing the right things.
Right. I think it's we don't talk about it enough. We're doing it. People are afraid. They're fear-based because of, oh, they're going to have my data. They already, I always hold up a cell phone. I'm like, do you have a cell phone? They're like,
Mm.
yeah. I'm like, they already have your data.
Yeah.
Or if I talk to governments, they're like, oh, I don't want anybody reading anything. And I'm like, you guys all have Gmails. You
Right.
don't have secure email. They're already reading it. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fear, but it's already happening. So if you're hiding something, yeah, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
If you're not hiding anything, who cares,
Right.
right?
The
That's
data
how I
was,
see
they
it.
already had it. Right.
They have it. Whether
Right.
they're using it for whatever you think they may or may not be using, you don't know. You
Yeah.
have no idea. There's so much data, I will tell you they're not using much. I think
Yeah.
the stat is between 1 and 3%. I don't know what you're hearing, but like 1 to 3% of the data generated is used.
Yeah. It's
I don't
it's
I don't know if
scary, microscopic.
it's
Right.
micro. So people are, oh, I fear. And we
Yeah.
just don't live in fear. We live in opportunities. What is
Yeah.
the opportunity? What can we do to help? How can we, where our,
You're a
our mission
perfect
is,
podcast guest for this. I always say glass half full.
look, our mission is to connect the unconnected populations of people to what they need to thrive, not
Yeah.
just survive. We're tired of the survival. It's nonsensical. So I applaud Africa for their innovation. They're going to come up quick and fast because they don't have the boat anchors of what we have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny in the US, I tell everybody, watch out for startups in mid-market because they don't have the boat anchors of the legacy stuff as the big
Hmm.
companies, and the big companies don't
Hmm.
see what's coming. They think they do, but it's so difficult to turn a Titanic versus,
It is. It
a
is.
small, ship. AI is just like what I've learned in this podcast would blow people away about the number of smart people that I talk to every day that are just changing industries. Just what you're doing in Africa alone, before you even get to Europe and Asia, you think about the impact that you have. And that's one small use case, if you think about it, right? And the
Hmm.
taxation. And you start to extrapolate that out. And the number of people that I see that are, we always talk about, everybody talks about Uber, right? And the taxi industry didn't see it coming. But what people don't understand about AI, and I just want to get your thoughts on this, is that you can have a small team look at
Hmm.
another business and go, how would I build it with all the AI tools when you can build an MVP in a week? Where it
Yep.
used to take you months or years to build an MVP, right? The VC model is just changing, the private equity
Hmm.
model is changing. And I don't
Yep.
think a lot of people understand that. And so I just want
No.
to get your take on what you see as a CEO.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is, look, we can move quicker, faster with small staff.
Yeah.
We don't have a corporate office. We've always worked remotely. And I remember when COVID happened, people were freaking out, like, oh, work from home, work from home. I'm like, we work at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, for, we got 11-hour time change. So I said, we never had offices. And we do have an office now in Uganda. And that's the only one we'll have because everybody works from home. So what AI does, it helps that workforce stay connected very quickly, and it helps us be very nimble. Like we can turn on a dime. When we go into a country and we get their first set of data, we're like, "Ooh, this is ugly data or this is good data." We can then fill it in with whatever AI tool we need to make it very robust very quickly, rather than a bunch of consultants running around, doing analysis paralysis and, the paper base, because we've replaced the consultants. The
Yeah.
consultants, the 1,000-page reports with 8 by 10 glossies, gone. Do not need them. And US government is holding on to that because that is big money. Whenever you see a big project, you watch the consulting dollars on these people running around doing their
I started my
theses,
career there, so I know exactly what you're talking
right?
about. And
So you don't need that
you don't
anymore.
need it. Yeah.
And you know what we did? We actually pulled on climate, we pulled in all those documents and had AI just summarize them for us. Like
Yeah.
there's been so many feasibility studies done. There's been all this analysis, but nothing ever happens. So we were asked to trace honey from the bee to the bottle. And I'm like, oh, how are we going to do that? Surely somebody's done a feasibility study on this
Mhm.
somewhere. And then we went through, scoured it, found it, and then threw a technology together. So
Isn't it? It's
that
fun though, isn't it? Like
It's
to
a
be able
blast.
to get that information that quick to make a decision
Yep.
to actually do something.
Yep, I
Yeah.
know. It's great. And I don't have to read 100,000 page PDFs
Yeah.
written by, people with a million footnotes. I can just say summarize it for me and also give me sources and what page so that I
Yeah.
can go and verify and check it. So it's very smart. I'm actually we're excited about what next gen AI is going to be. I keep hearing about all kinds of different things. I remember when
Agentic's going to be
blockchain,
cool.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait. And then when blockchain came out, I'm still not a fan of blockchain. I think there'll be something better. To me, I'm a former auditor. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so what? I can trace it. I can trace anything. But everybody was like, oh, blockchain's here to stay. It's here for now. I
It's
don't
here
know
for
that
now.
it's here
Right.
for now. And so we'll always leverage what's here for now, but we
Mm.
always sit on top of whatever the latest greatest is, and we'll
Yeah.
change it out when need be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny you said that about the consulting because I feel like you have to be a implementer and integrator now. If you want to bring that consulting expertise, you have to be able to come in and do exactly what you just talked about is make impacts fast. You don't need these long reports, all this
No,
research. If you can get the data in to the AI model, it can do the analysis like
right?
that. And that
Exactly.
to me is how we push innovation forward so much faster.
I think it's going to disrupt all services, and
Yeah.
including legal, accounting, all these services that we pay a lot of money because we
Mm.
have to do it.
Right.
I think it's going to disrupt the service industry in a good way. And I think the service industry wants it. They
Yeah.
need that. They're tired of doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like, why do I got to go through an attorney for an NDA and I can pull up an NDA and like have it read it real quick? Or,
I
the
totally
silly
agree.
stuff we used to pay a lot of money to do. We don't need
Yeah.
to do it now.
Right. Yeah. It's paying a $800 or $1,000 an hour attorney to write an NDA for like
Right.
just form letter or it's just you're like, are
Right.
you kidding me? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come
No.
on,
And
chat.
it's because and attorneys are probably like, yeah, you know what? That's the least thing I want to be doing with my time.
Yeah, my
Right.
daughter's a litigator. She
Yeah.
goes, "Yeah, can't wait till we can use it." You
Yeah,
know?
fantastic. Now,
Yeah,
so Jay, one more question, right? I always ask
sure.
because I want to pull this out. What do you, as a CEO, do with AI that you think like that makes you more productive as a leader that you think that other founders and CEOs might find useful?
Okay, so we use a AI through our day-to-day life. It writes my emails, it does my PowerPoint presentation, it scripts my talks, it does everything that I don't need it. Remember, we used to have assistants
Yeah.
book my travel. We use it everywhere. And we just hired a guy in Gambia, and he came from USAID. And I said, we use Gamma for PowerPoints. He goes, what's that? And then we say, oh, we use it to do writing. We'll put our thoughts in and it'll professionalize it, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, am I allowed to use that? I'm like, of course you are. We want our employees to be productive. So
Absolutely.
any newest and greatest, I love to hear about it because we will use it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have our own like CNN for property news. And
Yeah.
we used to have all these writers and editors and all this stuff. Not anymore. We have one person.
It's fantastic, right? I mean, do you know how hard it used to be to edit a podcast? Right now,
Yeah,
it's like
yes.
AI is
Yeah.
amazing at that.
You don't even need people to do a
Right,
podcast, right?
right,
You can
right,
put like say you two, whatever, make up two people and they can have a full on podcast about your topic.
right. You
There's
actually can do
such
that
cool.
now. It's
Oh
crazy.
yeah. Oh yeah. I saw it. I'm like, oh, I might do that for marketing. From
Yeah,
a marketing perspective, for a social media perspective, I
yeah.
mean, it just makes us more productive so we can think strategically and really solve the problems
Amen.
that need to be solved rather than busy work. I can't
Yeah,
stand busy work.
I
And work
can't either.
smarter, not harder. Yep.
Yeah. And for all the other leaders, execs watching this, what Jay's talking about is what I hammer home all the time on this podcast is use AI at a minimum to get rid of the mundane tasks that you should not be spending more than 5 minutes on, but you wind up spending hours. You know how many people I talk to that still take like an hour to write an email to like their board members and stuff? And I'm like, because they're thinking through everything. And I'm
Yep.
like, just put it in ChatGPT and it gets you 85% of the way there. Then you make your tweaks and you're good,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Teach it
We did
about
our
yourself.
yeah, and it knows me well. A lot of AI knows my background. I feed it all in there. And people are like, oh, but aren't you afraid? I'm like, no, I'm not afraid. I'm not hiding anything. But it did our annual report. I
Mhm.
did it within, it used to take me hours to craft every little word. Within 15 minutes. And I was in Senegal when I did it. I gave it the
Fantastic.
facts, spit it out. It was beautiful. They're like, wow, this is so cool. And
Well,
here's a funny story. I asked every employee to give me a quote about,
mhm.
because I wanted to feature them in the annual
Yeah.
report. I could tell every single person use AI because every single one said, working at RippleNami is like a roller coaster. It's an adventure. It's a journey. Like they had the exact same first line. I'm like, I appreciate everybody using AI to do your quote. However, we have to change a little bit because if you've
Yeah.
never been on a roller coaster, Africans, and you don't
Yeah.
even know what it is. It was really cute, and they were all laughing. I'm like, let's just use a different lead in. Could we do that? And so
Yes.
they had fun. But I was so proud to see all these people
Yeah.
using it to professionalize what they felt. They put their sentiment in and then, chat spit it out.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're an AI first company. There's not enough of them out there. I do this podcast a lot, and more often than not, they're not, and they're struggling to figure out where to start with. So kudos to you
Yep.
and your team. And Jay, I hope you
Yeah.
continue to make impacts all across the globe with what you're doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and send me new ideas. I'm always looking for new and greatest
Absolutely.
AI.
You'll be on the list once a week.
Cool.
Again, with AI, summarize and push out. So
Yep.
I get some of the best AI or prompt ideas and really cool stuff that I get on a weekly basis. So I'll definitely put you on that list. So
Okay,
thank you
great.
for spending
Thank
the
you very
time.
much.
And Jay,
Okay.
just for everybody that wants to go check out RippleNami or engage
Mhm.
and see what you guys are doing, what's the best way for them to do?
Just www.ripplenami.com, and it's Ripple and the end of tsunami, NAMI, all one word.com.
Love it. Love it. Thank you again for spending
Thank
time with
you.
us.
Yep.
And yeah, best of luck going forward.
Thank you
And
very much.
And hey guys, that wraps up this episode of the Future Proof podcast. We always say future proof what matters in your business, automate the rest. Thanks, and see you, Jay.
Bye-bye.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.